There are a lot of things going on NBA wise, surprisingly, in the off season for the NBA right now. And one of those things being that I want to get into first, and other news stuff that we will get into in this podcast. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame and some of the speeches and some things that happened. We're going to talk about Marc Gasol and the Lakers situation, which I think is a little deeper than just Marc Gasol saying it's time. And we will talk about that in a little bit. But first, I wanted to talk about um, some places that are kind of scrounging for NBA content. And one of the things that they're doing right now is Bleacher Report redrafted the 2017 draft. And in doing so, pissed off a lot of people. So they're
So it
they're
worked. We're talking about it.
well, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the goal, right? So, if that's the case, then it is what it is. Hold on, I'm going to actually share it on the screen because we do video version of this podcast. So if you ever want to watch it, find us Drive and Dish NBA on YouTube. So, pardon my horrible uh planning with this because this looks not great. Actually, maybe I can turn it. No, we can't do
It
that.
looks pretty good.
Oh, that I wanted that us being bigger than the actual
Oh, okay.
screen is what I was looking for. That was the idea.
Gotcha.
All right. So, yeah, here we go. Bleacher Reports 2017 redraft. They go number 1, Jason Tatum. Number 2, Donovan Mitchell. I don't think anybody is upset with that. Number 3, they go Bam. Again, I don't think anybody's upset with that. Then they get interesting. Number 4, they go Lonzo Ball. Number 5, they go John Collins. Number 6, they go De'Aaron Fox. And De'Aaron Fox at number 6, at least from everybody on social media, is where I see the most upset from. And do you agree with them?
Yeah, I would think De'Aaron Fox should be drafted higher than John Collins and Lonzo Ball. I think John Collins should also arguably be drafted higher than Lonzo Ball. But yeah, De'Aaron Fox is a borderline all star. Like Lonzo's potential is still like a lot higher, I think, and I think we're going to see some of that in Chicago. But no, De'Aaron Fox has already kind of shown and proved it. I wouldn't have him over Bam or Donovan or Tatum. I think those are right for sure. But yeah, De'Aaron Fox is a real solid four to me for without a doubt.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. I think he gets lost a little bit, obviously, because he's on a team that just hasn't had much success in the win column and really any playoff, runs.
Yeah,
So I think that's a big part of it too. And I think Lonzo's always going to get just some hate in general because he's part of the Ball family. So I'm not saying that he should be much lower. Obviously, like I don't think would you argue that maybe Jarrett Allen should be above any of those three? John Collins, Lonzo Ball, De'Aaron Fox. Obviously, we said De'Aaron at number 4. So
no, I think the only one that might shake up differently would be Jonathan Isaac at 9. Like if Jonathan Isaac was always healthy, I think you could argue that he'd be right up there with De'Aaron Fox and maybe even Bam at a bio. Like I think he's that good defensively. I think he showed definitive improvement on the offensive end once when he's healthy. It's just the reality is he's such an injury risk. It's such a high injury risk at this point. I mean, he's basically been injured every season of his career. And so, yeah, I think at that point, if you factor that in, you have to go down to number 9. So I don't really have a problem with that there. But again, I think the potential is still there if he can stay healthy. But it's more than fair to say that's a big if at this point. Besides that, I don't really have anything that's really too glaring. Again, I would bump Lonzo Ball down because I think that's interesting. If that's the argument against De'Aaron Fox, it's like Lonzo Ball hasn't really played meaningful playoff basketball either. Yeah, sure, he was on the Lakers, so I guess that's a quote
sure.
unquote bigger market. But it's not like he's really been a key factor of any teams that have gone deep here either. I think the most glaring thing that sticks out to me, and I think that it's not to keep just rubbing the salt in our own wounds, but it's like Markel Fultz who went number 1. He's not even in the top
Hmm.
14 in this redraft, and it's fair. Honestly, there's nobody who I look at with that top 14 where I'm like, yeah, no, I would definitely take Markel over them. It's just like, man, again, when you look back at the Sixers process drafting, other than post Embiid, it's just like what a missed opportunity.
So let me ask you this. Um, well, first, actually, to that, I was reading about this. So Markel Fultz, obviously, big disappointment. Though we'll see where he goes. I mean, there has been some excitement with him, obviously, in Orlando. But like you said, I mean, 3.1 win shares for his career. The most win shares, by the way, for anybody wondering, out of the 2017 draft is going to be Bam actually comes in number one at 28.3, Jarrett Allen number two at 26.5, and then Jason Tatum at 25.5. And then the three all stars from that, Bam, Donovan, and Tatum. I don't think anybody's surprised about that. But if you had to guess the top five in total points accumulated over 4 years, who do you think would be in the top five?
In points scored,
Like total
De'Aaron
points,
Fox.
like yeah,
De'Aaron Fox. This is in no
hmm
order. De'Aaron
yep,
Fox, Donovan Mitchell,
yep,
Jason Tatum.
yep.
Um, Bam's not.
He's at
Lonzo's
number
not.
6.
Bam, actually, wow, good for Bam.
Yep.
Is Markkinen on this list?
He is not in the top 5. Markkinen is number 7, actually, right behind Bam by about, let's round up, say about 100 points.
Where's Kuzma at?
Kuzma's number 4.
Okay, Kuzma had a lot of minutes on those young Lakers, and he got looked to as the scoring option there. Obviously more of a rotational role once LeBron and AD got there, but that makes sense to me. He was looked at
hmm
as an early scoring option. So we got what we got. We got four of them. Who am I
Yeah,
missing? I got one
you're missing
more.
number 5. So you had Kuzma at 4, and then Bam's at number 6.
Hmm. Um. Oh, is it John Collins?
It is John Collins, yeah, and honestly, the other ones that kind of surprised me, and I mean not surprised me, but I guess from draft position and still being up here, Dylan Brooks is at number 8. I think he's worth
Hmm.
mentioning. He would definitely probably pop up on that draft order that we were talking about there. And then Josh Jackson actually in the top 10.
Josh Jackson is really in the top 10.
He is. He's over Lonzo
Wow.
too.
That's crazy, and I mean, wow, that genuinely surprised me. Like, I know Lonzo was not a score first guy, so I don't really expect him to be that, really up that high in the points
hmm
totals, but yeah, Josh Jackson has just been so disappointing. I was so wrong about Josh Jackson versus Jason Tatum. Like that's a top three without a doubt for me that I've ever been wrong in terms of
Yeah.
just how off I was. Like I thought Tatum was going to be such a bust in the NBA. I didn't like his game in college. I didn't think it would translate well. Josh Jackson to me had all the tools to be successful. He had a high motor. He looked great at Kansas. Just insane athletic potential, and then none of it clicked. Like just
hmm
anywhere. Like it never happened for Josh Jackson. And Jason Tatum just looks like he is going to be a perennial all-star for years to come. So, you can't win all of them.
No, you can't win all of them. Derek White also in the top 20. I think Derek White would definitely pop up a little higher on the draft if we redid
Definitely.
that.
Oh yeah, he's a second
Um,
round pick, right?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'd definitely be higher. Josh Hart also in the top 15.
Josh
Um,
Hart fell off hard after his rookie year. He never really
he did.
has caught it back. Like he's going to stick around on NBA rosters because he can shoot the basketball a little bit, but and it feels like we haven't talked about Josh Hart in ages.
Yeah, and the other one that's kind of not surprising, but I feel like we didn't hear about him much, obviously in Detroit. Luke Kennard. We just know he's got that three ball, and so he's definitely in the top 15. He's number 13 on this list, above Malik Monk, who is also in the top 15. So
Yeah.
kind of a cool little list just to go back and look at 2017. So we shout out, those guys for making us take a trip down memory lane, if you will. The other thing we wanted to bring up is Aaron Gordon's contract extension that actually happened today as of recording this podcast. So we appreciate the extra news drop so that we have something to talk about today on the
No,
Drive and
actually
Dish.
though.
So Aaron Gordon contract extension. According to Keith, a friend of the show, we love Keith. He said that the extension is closer to 78 through 88 million, based on a $4 to $5 million bonus through through some league sources that he has. So, you know, I saw some people talking about how they thought this might have been a little bit of an overpay for Aaron Gordon.
Mhm.
Do you agree with that?
So I think it's an overpay. And again, he's re-signing with Denver here, 4-year
Yes,
deal.
with Denver. Sorry, yes.
So I think it's an overpay in a vacuum in the sense that because when you look at Aaron Gordon with the Magic, when he was more viewed at as the guy,
Mhm.
he averaged 18 and 9. They weren't really on any successful team. So I think at first glance, you go, wow, that is a lot of money for Aaron Gordon. I think you also look at it if you're Denver and go, though, we traded for Aaron Gordon. He was really good in the role that he played it for them last year. Like when they were healthy, when fully with Jamal Murray, when they had Jokic and Murray and Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon as their, four best players, if you will, they were really clicking. Like the Nuggets looked like best team in the NBA potential. Like they could really make a run. And then Murray tore his ACL and just took kind of the steam out of it.
Yeah.
So do I think if you're paying Aaron Gordon to be your number one, or like, is it a bit of an overpay? Yeah, I think it's a bit of an overpay for Aaron Gordon, but I think it's a good overpay, if that makes sense. Like, I think Denver needed to bring Aaron Gordon back. I think he's going to be key to not only keeping them afloat next year a little bit without Murray for a little bit, because I mean, we still don't know if we're going to get Jamal Murray back at any
Sure.
point at all next season, let alone for the playoffs and to make a run. But if this team is ever going to hit its ceiling, I think Aaron Gordon is a big part of that. I think he can be elite in his role. And so, to that sense, I don't think it's the worst overpay in the world if you're Denver.
Well, and looking at it, I'm trying to see, the arc that is Aaron Gordon's career right now. 2017, 2018 looks like when he was scoring the most points with,
Mhm,
obviously with Orlando, and 2018, 2019, where he essentially was scoring about the same amount of points. But like you said, never going to be the 20 or so points per game. I mean, his most is 17.6, and that was the 2017, 2018 season. But, to that, Aaron Gordon also brings the ability to defend really any wing that Denver would end up going up. He also provides a lob threat. And,
mhm.
I think just the threat of that helps everything else that's happening on the court. So I think the fact that you can put him on maybe the best player on another team and in a way, set it and forget it, and then let your other guys do the offensive work. It's not the prettiest job, but he can do it. And so, to that is why I think you keep Aaron Gordon, because the defensive side of things, the stats that you won't see as much is what he's also bringing, in a sense that will help the team and help Denver if they can get back to 100% next year.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but he does a lot of the dirty work. Like he does a lot
Yeah.
of the dirty work that doesn't show up in the stat sheets that good teams need. And that's where I think the benefit comes for Denver. Like they're paying him to be good at that role. I mean, the other reality too is I think we saw what happened when Denver let Jeremy Grant go out the door, and how I mean they ended up having to pay a lot in terms of capital to fill that gap a little bit. Now I think Aaron Gordon admirably fills the gap that Jeremy Grant left, but I mean, Nuggets weren't nearly as good until they brought AG in, and as good as they looked when they had Jeremy Grant the season before that. So again, I think it's having that position filled. Like we saw what it looks like. You don't want to just continually go backwards. Like you don't want to spend your war chest. You're trying to see this team hit its ceiling together.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be a little bit of a lame duck year just because we don't know what Jamal Murray, if he's going to get any minutes at all. And I don't think this Denver team is good enough to win the title without Jamal Murray. But if they continue to develop a little bit once everybody's healthy, we saw for that what half a season where Aaron Gordon was there that they looked like they can beat anybody. And so if I'm
Hmm.
Denver, I get why I'm doubling down on
Yeah, you got to keep, not necessarily keep the window open, but you got to explore this further and see what a full season can potentially make of it. Now, obviously, the injury changes some things, and we'll see where that goes. But I think that's something we definitely need. So I
that.
kind
Yeah,
of
and I mean again,
I kind of agree with you.
yeah, and it can be an overpay and be a necessary overpay. Like I think both of these situations can be true. And but yeah, if I'm looking at it in a vacuum, then yes, I can say that Aaron Gordon probably got overpaid a little bit. But hey, man, good for AG. Get your money. Welcome everybody to the Drive Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rayfuse. Joining me as always, my co-host Justin Kuzart.
Where's the best high school basketball teams in Orlando trying to tap in?
Okay, who's running some games here? Let's see. Is it Terrence Ross?
It is not Terrence Ross.
That would be funny just because Terrence Ross is in his 30s now and just see him playing
Mhm.
with high schoolers.
Can you
Is
imagine?
it RJ Hampton?
It is not. It is Cole Anthony.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm gonna get there eventually. I know living in Orlando, I know more of the Magic roster than I should these days. Um, that makes sense. That feels very on brand for Cole Anthony. And Cole Anthony's young. It's not like he's that far removed from high school in the grand scheme
It's
of things.
still could you imagine being a high school, like, I don't know, say you're a high school team or whatnot, just playing some basketball and Cole Anthony shows up, like, I'd be like, "Well, whatever team he's
It,
on is gonna win."
yeah, but it'd be amazing though.
It'd
No,
be
is
fun.
that not the dream?
Oh, it would be fun.
In terms of like just playing pickup, and I mean, let's Cole Anthony is not just going to torch these kids either.
No.
He's not going to just you're not going to see Cole Anthony out there playing like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But yeah, just it would be incredible. I think to me it would be fun. And of course, they're going to smoke you. It's an NBA guy, but how often do you get to play with NBA guys?
Well, that's true, and I think it would be fun. I
And
don't
for the
know.
record, Cole Anthony, the answer for high school around here, just in Central Florida, it's not in Orlando, but the answer is Monteverde Academy. That's one of the. It's a private school. It's literally in Monteverde. It's on Lake Apopka, which is one of the bigger lakes here in Central Florida. But I mean, they've had plenty of NBA guys come out. I mean, Ben Simmons played there. D'Angelo.
Ooh, Kev, sorry, I'm gonna mute you for a second. We got a little bit of crackle going on there. See if it can get you back. That one surprised me. I hadn't seen that one before or heard that way before.
Yeah, hopefully, that
You're
wasn't
good.
anything too crazy. Monteverde's, academy list, though, is really crazy as well. That's where Cole would probably wanna run it. They have Ben Simmons, D'Angelo Russell, RJ Barrett, Luke Bob Mute, among others, who recently, a ton of D1 kids as well. But, I mean, that's
Oh,
a
jeez.
pretty good out of one academy to churn out that kinda NBA talent is pretty good.
I just went to Cole Anthony's Twitter. Wha He's got some interesting stuff going on here. I'm trying to see, if he has he did not give an update on where he went. He did retweet, though, that the GameCube has turned 20 today.
It did. That would have been a good non-warm-up jumper. The GameCube being 20 is pretty crazy. I didn't own a GameCube ever. I had a
I
PlayStation
did.
2, but
I
a
s
bunch of friends had GameCubes. A lot of people still
I still
play GameCube, I feel like.
me, I was actually gonna I thought I had it in here. There's me. I still play it all the time.
Yeah.
Some Mario Double Dash, dude. Come on now.
Yeah, it had some classics for sure. Some games have aged really well. Obviously they'll always have some winners of the Mario ones, but yeah, the GameCube in specific, Double Dash is pretty widely viewed as
Yeah.
the best Mario Kart game. Do you just want to plug the Newbie Brothers while you're here? That
I
kind
was
of fits
gonna
really well.
I was gonna work that in saying we're actually gonna try to break down the top 5, GameCube games of all time, and we're gonna that'll probably drop Thursday.
That'd be
So,
interesting.
we'll
I got
see
to
how
think
that
about that.
goes.
I'm going to come up with a top five. I may think about that while we're doing the show. Anyway, leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Stitcher, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Player FM, anywhere you can find a podcast, you could find us.
Yes, and be sure to find us on YouTube. We started a YouTube channel. I don't know what subscriber number we are at. I forgot to check before this, but we would love for you to join us and watch the video versions of this podcast. So we put them all up there. You can find us Drive and Dish NBA on YouTube.
And now a word from our sponsors.
So Marc Gasol is no longer with the Lakers. Technically, if I am not behind, technically with the Grizzlies, but planning to retire here and go over to Spain and play for the team he actually owns in Spain, which seems like an interesting situation. I would love for somebody on the team to say he only got a position on the team because he owns the team. See what happens. He'll dunk on them, or he'll shoot a nice fadeaway three on them. um, so, but there's a lot to unpack with this situation because at first look, it's like, okay, Mark's done, with the NBA. It's fine. He's moving on. But then you go back to some of the stuff that he said, even as of like a month ago, where he was like locked in with the Lakers, ready to make a run and ready to really push for it. And then some stuff has come out that, the Lakers, when they went and got Andre Drummond, who, by the way, also is not with the team anymore, um, Andre Drummond took over the starting center position over Marc Gasol, and Marc Gasol said it was a hard pill to swallow and was having some trouble dealing with that. So then comes into the question of player management on the Lakers side of things.
Mhm.
Do you think they, because honestly, looking at it, they could have really used a Marc Gasol this year, and so not having him is going to hurt for sure.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that he's not. And now again, they just brought DeAndre Jordan in, so they're not exactly in
That's
with
true.
Dwight Howard back in the mix as well. My question was, and what
Well,
Sam
and
the
but
Albuquerque and I talked about last week. Shout out to Sam for filling in. Was what does the rotation look like? To me, it would be like we're not going to get Anthony Davis at the 5 minutes, which is something that I thought the Lakers needed more of. Now with Mark out of the picture, I think that will free up him to do more minutes.
well,
So to that
and
point, I think that works a little more.
and to that, to the DeAndre Jordan, Dwight Howard situation at center, I thought Marc Gasol would be a great kind of counter to that lineup where he does provide a
Mhm.
little bit of outside shooting. So if the lanes are getting
Yeah.
clogged, you throw in a Marc Gasol and kind of at least change the game on him. And depending on who's on the court, you can really switch up the defense that's happening on you. So it kind of gave them a little more creativity that they could have on the offensive side or defensive side.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And like you said, that's a little while I'm surprised. Again, I think if AD is playing the five, I think he's that change of pace, obviously. You're not going to
Sure.
space the floor with DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard. So that kind of answers that question a little bit now that they got DJ in the mix. Now, in terms of Marc Gasol, though, going back to the DeAndre Drummond thing, I mean, we'll get to him going to Spain in a little bit because I don't think Marc Gasol is going to fully retire. I thought, honestly, I mean, him being bought out by Memphis makes sense. Memphis is still in rebuild mode. Again, Marc Gasol started his career there, but I just
Yeah,
don't
let him in
think,
there.
you know, yeah, they're not fully recommended to. I thought Marc Gasol would just kind of get bought out and test free agency. Like I think there are plenty of contenders, people who are ready to make championship runs right now that would use Marc Gasol, and that's still a possibility if he goes back to Spain, which again we'll get to in a little bit. The Drummond thing, I mean, I think it's kind of valid. Like the Lakers force fed Andre Drummond and tried to, they brought him in. They like the Lakers just had a longer leash for Andre Drummond. Then I think the results just weren't showing pretty early on that it wasn't working there. And so, but because of his stature, I think, and because of his name and because of his recent success, they just, maybe force fed that more when they were already successful with Marc Gasol. And so Marc Gasol was like, I got bumped out of the starting lineup when I didn't really deserve it. Like I was playing well, I was thriving in my role, and to a point when the Lakers ended up going back to Marc Gasol. So it kind of makes sense. And Gasol, I think, in his view, looks like he's a legend in his own right, which he is. Um, but I can understand the hurt feelings there because he objectively was playing better than Andre Drummond.
hmm Yeah, I agree. It's one of those you wonder where or who was in what ear going on there that led to Andre Drummond getting the minutes that he got, and like you said, the leash length that he got. Um, but it does kind of. I wonder if there's other players that are on the Lakers now that are feeling similar ways or have those kind of frustrations, or do they just suck it up because, there's no one else like a Marc Gasol on the team that kind of has that stature to be able to maybe voice their frustrations like that?
Oh, I think they shook it up a little bit. Like that's the thing is, I
Mhm.
think a lot of the guys who may have been frustrated aren't there anymore. Drummond was
Yeah.
frustrated. It didn't work out the way they wanted to. He's gone. Marc Gasol is gone. Dennis Schroeder's gone
Yeah.
after they couldn't reach a deal. Um, and then just refreshing the roster a little bit in the sense as well with the Westbrook trade where you let Caldwell Pope go and Kuzma go. Alex Caruso's gone. Like those guys, I think more recently had positive contributions, bigger contributions to the Lakers. Like I mean, certainly, like Alex Caruso was actively important to this Lakers roster when they
Yeah.
were done. Kuzma was more of a bench guy than I think that third option that they wanted him to be, but he still was super useful on that roster. Like he played that role well. And so did that. I mean, Schroeder, it didn't work out. Montrezl Harrell's gone too. That didn't work out the way I think they wanted it to. But no, I don't think now. I think you have guys who are either trying to, prove something or they're chasing the title. Like I think they're all there for the same reason. Like I think DeAndre Jordan chose to go there on his own. Carmelo Anthony obviously is good friends with LeBron. Russell Westbrook, same sort of deal, has a good relationship with all those guys. So no, I don't think I would. I don't worry about a toxic atmosphere with the Lakers. Put it that way. Like I think Marcus Gasol rightfully had frustrations, but it's over with now. They're gone. He's gone.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was wondering is if the Lakers felt they needed to retool so many players because of frustrations similar to Marcus Gasol's, or if
Mhm.
that's just kind of how LeBron James teams are and they just retool, you know?
Yeah. Now, in terms of him going back to Spain, I mean, Pau is over there right now. Pau's finishing his career at Barcelona. Like he's still actively playing a little bit.
Yep.
I think if Mark wants to play, like he played meaningful minutes for an NBA playoff team last year. Like I think Marc Gasol is going to be able to play for a couple of years at Eurobasket. Do I think there's a chance he comes back? Yeah, absolutely. But if he ends his career in Spain, I wouldn't be surprised either. Like it's kind of the reverse of what we see with soccer players. Like soccer players,
Yeah.
they come to America when they're basically not good enough to compete at the highest level anymore, but still have some left in the tank and play in competitive leagues. Maybe we start seeing that route for older NBA guys. Like there's certainly plenty of money in Eurobasket. Basketball is an expanding game. Uh, It's a viable option. Now, obviously, it's different with the Gasol brothers. They're Spanish. They have more ties to Spain. They're the most legendary, team Spain basketball players of all time. But
They
I do wonder how viable of an option this becomes for older NBA guys.
we need to make it worth it for Marc Gasol and Paul Gasol to find one more buddy, and then they can go join the Big 3 league and just absolutely dominate.
Oh, they cook. I mean, they it's
Right?
already like because you see somebody with Joe Johnson in the big three who is not probably an NBA guy anymore, but he's right on the fringe where he could actually help a roster out, and he dominates the big three. I mean, Powell is pretty old at this point and is definitely out of his NBA days. But like I said, Mark still has it. Like Mark would probably instantly be the best player in the three big.
Yeah, and then you just find yourself a little small, scrappy guy who can shoot the 3 ball as fast, you're good to go. You got that team locked down, you know?
It'd be a really good get for them. There's no doubt about it. But
That'd be
like
fun.
we said, I think he's going back to Spain.
Yeah.
All right, who's balling? Who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like start with the good before the bad. So Justin, who's balling for you this week?
Yeah, balling for me is actually going to be John Wall and the Houston Rockets. They met and mutually agreed to work together on finding a new home for him. And the only reason I know is because everybody sent me that saying Wall for Simmons, and I said absolutely not. Um, but either way, I'm excited for John Wall because he will be balling somewhere else, and that's why he's my balling today.
So it's funny because this is actually my fallen this week, only because it was more of just John Wall and his future with the Houston Rockets. Like that's falling,
Hmm.
it's coming to a close. I completely understand why John Wall and Houston need to part. John Wall probably wants to go play meaningful basketball. Houston is completely retooling, obviously
Sure.
in the post Harden era with the Jalen Green draft pick. Like Houston is going to be bad for a little bit. They're going to be letting young guys take the reins here. John Wall doesn't remotely fit the timeline. Here's the thing, they're going to have to buy some of that contract out because I don't know any team remotely right now that is going to want John Wall and that type of money. Different story if it's just John Wall at this point. Like, obviously, I think John Wall has unfortunately been sapped of his prime because of all the injuries he's taken over the years. But there are teams who would still go out and get John Wall. I just again, they're gonna. I'm interested to see what it looks like with that contract because that contract is it's very bad. It is probably the worst contract in the league right now.
So this is CBS Sports wrote 3 places that John Wall should end up. And the first line is when you consider John Wall's age, injury history, declining play, and massive contract, a trade is going to be very difficult to pull off. But here are some teams. They said the
I mean,
Clippers. And
uh huh.
they actually proposed some trades here. Okay, so they say Clippers would receive John Wall, Houston would receive Eric Bledsoe, filler salary, and Luke Kennard.
That'd be interesting. I mean, it
Mm,
makes sense money wise. Like again, John Wall fits for the Clippers. I don't really like. I guess in the stopgap motion in the sense too, because you're not going to have Kawhi. That makes sense. Um,
Yeah,
I don't like. Here's the thing. John Wall again is due $91 million over the next 2 years. Like he shot 32% behind the arc. He had career lows in pretty much everything. You know,
but
I
but
get the
but to
history is there,
that,
and he did score 20 points a game, but like that's a lot of empty calories.
so, here's their second option that they said. They said the Mavericks received John Wall and a first round pick. That's pretty decent for Kristaps Porzingis and filler salary. At first glance, Wall and Luca would be a weird fit, but Wall actually shot 38% on catch and shoot threes last season. So I mean, yes, the 3-point shot's not great, but if you have a player that's running point and John Wall's not necessarily doing that anymore, which he wouldn't be doing in the Mavericks, that could be something that. Oh, and then yep, they have the Sixers one. Do you want me to say it, or are we just going to get mad?
No, I'm probably gonna get mad because it's probably stupid as hell, but let's hear it anyway.
This looks like it is a 3-team trade because everybody wants Ben Simmons to end up in Sacramento. So here we go. Philadelphia receives John Wall, a first round pick from Houston, first round pick from Sacramento. So 2 first rounds and John Wall. Houston receives Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley. Sacramento receives Ben Simmons filler salary from the Sixers to make the money work.
Yeah, I just don't really get why
Was it
the Buddy Hield going to Houston part and the Sixers getting 2 picks doesn't make sense. I actually don't hate that as much as I thought I would. I
really?
also don't want John Wall anywhere near the Sixers. Let me just be as clear as possible. There's no
Right.
planet where I'm trading Ben Simmons for John Wall and having that be the big takeaway. That is a completely miserable idea that should cause Joel Embiid to want to leave the team at that point. Um, and the picks again, I don't think that helps you win now. Like Ben Simmons Sacramento makes a lot of sense, but it would require Buddy Hield or guys that help win now because that's what you're trying to do with Embiid. Like it, there were plenty of teams who could provide the draft capital. It's just not about draft capital with Ben Simmons.
It's about the
And
value.
again, I don't think again not to be disrespectful, but I don't think the corpse of John Wall is going to help anybody in Philly.
Right, right. I agree. So what was your ball in then?
My no, yeah, my ball in this week was the NBA coaches being
Mhm.
allowed to continue to wear casual attire. They started doing that in the bubble. Obviously, you used to have to be able to wear a suit. Look, if you want to wear a suit on the sidelines, go for it. Like NBA guys have been doing it for years. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But it kind of doesn't make sense to me in an arena for NBA coaches to be in full suits and ties when you just see them sweating through it by the middle of the second quarter, and it's like, do we got to keep disrespecting these suits like that? Like, it's fine. Like, I know Pat Riley's legendary in his suits, and there are
Sure.
some guys like that. And if you want to wear a suit, go for it. Like, I'm just saying, if you want to have the option, you want to wear like a pullover and the zip up that we see a lot of these guys do, then go for it. Like, we don't need to be forcing these guys to wear suits in 2021. What's the point?
I, for one, hate wearing suits, period. So I am all for it. Like, I am not a big suit wearer, and I don't really want to ever have to wear a suit. So I am 100% on board with staying away from suits, and any reason that gives us an option to stay away from suits. Um,
Yeah, it's just unnecessary. It's sports.
Agreed. So my fallen, we circle back to Ben Simmons because of course we do. 2K did Ben Simmons real dirty, and there was a few accounts that decided to point this out. Ben Simmons' 2K player rating is the same that it was as his rookie year, which is an 84 for anybody wondering. Now, players that have a better 3-point rating than Ben Simmons: Boban, JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, all have better 3-point ratings than our guy, Ben Simmons. And so 2K did him a
I'm a little
little
surprised.
dirty.
I'm a little surprised by DeAndre. I don't think 2K did him a little dirty at all. Those guys have willingly taken 3-pointers and made them. Ben
But
Simmons he doesn't take the shot.
right, but what I'm saying is having the same player rating in 84 as his rookie year. So you're essentially saying he's gotten no better than rookie year. He's definitely gotten better, at least defensively, if we're gonna have to get on just that side of things.
I might be willing to say he hasn't got better than it at all since his rookie year, and I've been, like,
Really?
on Ben Simmons. He has definitely got better defensively. Like, Ben Simmons is one of the best defenders in the league, but his offense has regressed. That's the thing, is, like, I don't think it's gotten better, quite the opposite. I think it's gotten worse. His points were at a career low last year. Let's see, his assists were at a career low last year. His free throw percentage was not a career low, it was 56%, but we saw what it was in the playoffs.
So
That was a
pretty,
career
yeah.
low. His effective field goal percentage just a slight bit higher than it was his rookie year. His 2-point percentage was higher, but not by a lot. His 3-point percentage obviously was non-existent his rookie year, so I guess that's something when you have it the whole year. But no, I mean, Ben Simmons has gotten better defensively, but his assist numbers are about the same. His rebounding numbers are about the same or have regressed.
Mm,
Like, I think it's fair. He hasn't really improved. Maybe you bump him up, what, like 1 or 2 points, but that's why we're all frustrated. He hasn't improved. It's not like he's bad. When he's engaged, he's not a complete net negative when he's
right.
engaged, but he has not gotten even slightly better at anything offensively.
It is true. The offense hasn't changed, but I felt like at least, getting, you know, all the defensive credit that he gets, that should at least get him some upgrade points, you know?
Ben Simmons did himself dirty. I feel no sympathy for Ben Simmons. He got a max contract that hasn't improved. It's simple. And I love what he does on the defensive end. That's what's crazy. His skill set should be endearing to this city and the town, and it's just not, because he
Can't
he
score.
doesn't have the mentality. That matters at some point.
No, I agree. So, um, we'll see where it goes, and we'll see where the trades end up if there is one before the season starts. We'll see. Our last topic that we did want to jump into, you mentioned Pat Riley. So he'll kind of come up here, the Hall of Fame stuff that happened over the what was that, the weekend. So obviously the main story that I think everybody was really talking about was Chris Bosh's story about Pat Riley recruiting him so hard and so determined to get him to Miami with LeBron, that he actually gave him one of the 2006 championship rings, saying to give it back to him once they won one together. Well, Bosh apparently gave it back during the Hall of Fame speech, and I want to know why the hell he didn't give it back when they won one together. Like, what were you waiting for?
Yeah, 'cause it was a while ago now. It's been 7 or 8 years. Obviously won back to back. They won 2 titles together. It's funny because I'm glad that Riley used the same pitch for Chris Bosh, because that his pitch to LeBron, that was his it. He just brought out the championship rings and just put them all on the table and said, "This is it. This is what I do. This is what I'm here for." LeBron obviously at that point was still chasing ring number 1.
Sure.
That was still the one big cloud that was hanging over him. It was like LeBron was great at everything else, but there were listen, I remember all those hot takes. It was a crazy time, and it's crazy looking back to think that we ever thought that LeBron was never going to get one. I mean, now he's sitting with 4. Um, but yeah, that was very endearing. I think that was the highlight of the speech. Um, I'm glad Riley got his ring back. Like you said, I'm a little surprised. You think he maybe would have done it earlier when they won the
Or
title, but
or like, why didn't Pat Riley ask for it back earlier? Like, why didn't he reach out and be like,
he's
"Yo,
got
so
so many. Who
he
cares?
didn't
Pat
know he
Riley.
was missing one."
That's the thing, and I mean, here's the thing about championship. Obviously, like, I don't own any championship rings, but especially now, like, maybe it was different with the Showtime ones back with the Lakers, but championship rings are massive. Like, you're
Yeah,
gonna be wearing that thing on your finger all day. Like, you can't. It's just like a weight essentially with
yeah.
how many diamonds and all the intricacies that they put into these rings at this point. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Like, even the '06 one definitely has a little bit of weight to it.
Oh, for sure. But it's still, I don't know. With how much value is in that ring, you would think they would know where the location of all their rings are, you know?
Oh yeah. I'm trying to pull up a Lakers championship ring from the '80s real quick. Um, just so I kind of know what I'm looking at with it. Um, but yeah, the Heat ones obviously are much better at this point in terms of size and everything. They got them recently. Okay, yeah, I mean it's about what you'd expect. They're a lot less gaudy
Yeah,
in the '80s. It's just the standard gold ring. There's a diamond in the middle. It has some of the designs on the sides, but not the way they are now and some of the
sure.
intricacies that they do there. But no, that was a really endearing moment. Shout out to Chris Bosh, one of the NBA's more underrated players, getting in. Paul Pierce getting in as well. We talked a little bit about it last episode. Paul Pierce has had quite an interesting few weeks. But again, no, much deserved induction for Paul Pierce.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny that he called out, what was it, 9 teams? Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, 9 teams that passed on him, for obviously not taking him and letting him become a Celtics legend. So I thought that was kind of petty and obviously fun. Squash the beef with Garnett. You saw that, and Ray Allen. So I guess that's done. Maybe, who knows?
I hope so, because this is ridiculous. I mean, they had
Yeah,
somebody had a picture of the '08 Celtics recently, and it was Ray and all them, and he just cropped like KG was still cropping Ray Allen out of the pictures. And it's just like, listen, I get it. Like Ray Allen went to the team that you were trying to beat, that essentially ended your dynasty once they were all together. Like, I understand the hurt feelings there, but like y'all won a title together. You went back
yeah,
to another finals together. Like the whole message of that '08 Celtics team is that they always pride themselves on is that they had this brotherhood that was unlike any others. It's incomplete without Ray Allen. Like
hmm
if Rondo can go play with LeBron and not get any flack later on in his career, I understand that it was a little more intense back then, but it's just like is time not going to heal it with everything?
yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. And the other last thing that I kind of liked was Bosch's Kobe story, about Team USA. I guess Kobe had just lost the NBA Finals a few days earlier, and Bosch said that that Kobe had finished an entire workout before he even really woke up, and that's what made him realize like legends are just built different, and he had to like rethink his whole mindset on everything, and obviously the whole day, that whole ceremony was very, you know, remembering Kobe and everything that Kobe was, which makes sense because obviously he wasn't there to be able to speak for himself.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest all time robberies among the many things that we were robbed of. But that was one of the big Kobe things that stands out to me. Kind of reunions too. This isn't NBA necessarily, but Chris Webber's in the Hall of Fame now. Shout to see
Hmm
Webb, great NBA career. Um, it was cool seeing him with the Fab Five again. Apparently, like that's one of the more infamous basketball beats with him and Jalen Rose, and that whole legendary Michigan squad is that they don't all get along and they haven't really been back together. Jawan Howard, same way, where the four of them all get along, and then C Webb was always the odd man out. It seems like it had been cooling down a little bit, but it be was great seeing them potentially back together. And that's what gives me hope eventually that Ray Allen and the '08 Celtics
Right.
will eventually just squash it and let bygones be bygones. It's just not worth it. Like y'all made magic together. Like, are you really gonna hold this grudge forever? It worked out for everybody.
Life's too short to hold grudges.
Yeah.
Believe me on that.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Driving Dish NBA podcast. We appreciate you guys as always. A little bit shorter episode this week. Again, summertime. It's just that part of it. But training camp is 2 weeks away, and we appreciate you guys rocking out with all our summertime content. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. I'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Amazon Music, Google Play Store, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, Player FM, tune in. Whether you're working out, driving to work, getting ready for NBA season, just need a fix, we are here for you.
Yes, and be sure to follow us on YouTube if you want to watch video versions. You can have conversations with us there, or obviously on our social media as well. Just search Drive and Dish NBA on YouTube.